things started, we want to start right at 6:30 so we can end at 8:30. So we want to be mindful of your time. So again, welcome. My name is Nimish Patel. I'm with the Legacy Park HOA. This is Adam Ambrek with the English Oaks HOA. On behalf of both HOAs, we're really honored to be able to co-sponsor this event for you all. Before we turn it over to our moderator, we'd like to thank a few people. Our moderator, David Yud, our timekeeper, John Chandler, and the Butler Ridge HOA for providing the refreshments. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to our moderator to go over the format of tonight's event, as well as some housekeeping rules. Now, for anyone that wants to ask questions anytime during this event, there will be no live questions from the audience. All questions have to be written and put in that pink box back there. Adam and I will kind of go through the questions and give to the moderator any questions that are not duplicative. Again, that's just to make sure that all questions go through the moderator for this event. So make sure you have questions. If you have questions, write them down. And if you raise your hand, I can bring you a note card with a pen to write your questions as well. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to our moderator.
I'm David Good. Somebody nominated me to be a moderator because I didn't know anything. Well, that's what I think, anyway. And I don't live in Kennesaw, I live in West Cobb. I'm a retired police sergeant in Atlanta. I'm an attorney, real estate attorney, which explains why I have a lot of time, because nobody's refinancing anymore. And I have 3 daughters that all went to school and graduated and left home. I've done my job. Well, kind of off the payroll. And I run for office several times back in the 1980s, so I've had experience up there. Never down here. Now, we have an opening of 2 minutes, and the questions are going to be 1 minute to answer and 1 minute closings. I've got a whole list of questions, but if you want to do any more questions, put them in the box back there, and I'll bring them up here. And we're not going to do any applause. We're going to be happy with the answers. And we're going to start right now, left to right. You have 2 minutes. Tell everyone who you are, what you're running for, and why you think you'll be good for that position.
All right, I'm Jeff Duckett, and it's a pleasure to be here this evening to answer any questions you may have about Kennesaw and the leadership that you rely on to retain and enhance your quality of life. I'd like to thank the moderator, timekeeper, Legacy Park, and English Oaks for putting this together. I am just finishing up my first term, and it has been a great enjoyment to serve this city. My focus has been on youth development, parks and recreation, economic development, and financial stability. While focusing on these areas, I've done so with a great passion and with the utmost integrity and transparency. I have come to have a great trust and respect for the city staff and their abilities. I believe that they are the backbone of the city. They're the ones that are in the background doing the hard work and getting things done. And I believe if you surround yourself with great people like those, it makes our job so much easier. I've also established friendships and partnerships outside the city through the Georgia Municipal Association and the Cobb Municipal Association, that we can come together, work together, and help one another to make a better surrounding area and region. I will continue to lead with a servant's heart, deeply committed to listening to others, and I'll come back to it.
Good evening, I'm Bruce Jenkins. I want to thank Legacy Park, English Oaks, and Butler Ridge Subdivisions for coordinating this event this evening. I would also like to thank my wife and my son Jonathan for their support in this campaign. None of us up here could do this without the support of our families. As a longtime resident and a city council member for the last 8 years, I have proven in my voting record to stand against higher taxes and voting against tax increases. I have balanced my decisions to approve growth with the protection of our homes, the quality of life that we all enjoy. I have worked to create tough legislation that protects our youth against sales of underage sales of tobacco and alcohol products. I continue effective work with our city's youth council in creating leadership for tomorrow, partnering with these young people with the council and the department heads. I help them understand firsthand what it means to have a servant's heart and also through stewardship of your community. I ask for your support and continued efforts in staying on for post 3. Thank you.
Good evening, my name is Matt Riedemann, and it's a pleasure to be here. I do want to take a few seconds to thank the moderator and Legacy Park and English Oaks, and in fact, all the candidates that are here in this discussion. I think it's fantastic that we're all able to be here and share our thoughts for a great Kennesaw. I have had the opportunity to be in the late Bill Thrash's seat for the last 3.5 months, and it's been an honor, and we'll never fill his shoes, but I do have the same passions and visions for Kennesaw, and I look forward to continuing this growth that we're seeing. We're coming out of the worst downturn since the Great Depression, and we are seeing some great activity downtown and want to continue that, but at the same time reflecting the history that we have here in Kennesaw and not being out of character for that. Also like to thank my wife Beth and my daughter Noelle, who I believe is here somewhere. And again, thank you very much, and I look forward to continuing, if you so desire, in post 4.
Thank you. I'm Leonard Church, candidate for post 3 of the City Council. I want to thank all the people for being here tonight. I think that's we got a great turnout to come listen to us talk. My wife Karen and I, we share 6 children and 9 grandchildren. I grew up in Cobb County and have lived in Kennesaw for over 18 years. 8 of those years, it was my honor to serve as your mayor. During that time, I achieved over 150 hours of government continuing education classes through Georgia Municipal Association and the Carl Vinson Institute out of the University of Georgia. I've served on the board of the Georgia Municipal Association. I've served on the board and was president for 2 years of the Cobb Municipal Association. I served on the board for 6 years of the Atlanta Regional Commission. I served as vice president of the 3rd District Caucus for Georgia Municipal Association. I also served on the board for the State Georgia Dental Laboratory Association. I'm a graduate of the Leadership Cobb class of 2007, and I've served 3 times as the president of my HOA. I bring the knowledge and the proven leadership that is needed for post 3. And I am Leonard Church. I'm asking for your vote tonight, 2 weeks from now, November 5th. Thank you.
Good evening, and thank you for your interest in learning more about the opportunities and challenges we have here in our city. And again, thanks to the HOAs for sponsoring this on our behalf. I'm Jim Sebastian, and I'm seeking post 5 of the Kennesaw City Council. I've received both my bachelor's and master's degree, and since 1977 I've lived right on Cherokee Street here in town, and I've volunteered my time for a lot of various good causes, and specifically to children with special needs. Today, with over 35 years experience, I have my own company, and I'm managing partner of a consulting firm that specializes in product management and product warranties. I always look at issues as opportunities or chances to take and have improvements. Kennesaw has a lot of opportunities today. Some of the financial opportunities would be the employee pension programs. We have some lax reporting and some non-accountability and issues with respect to our city officials. We also need to probably review our city bonds and our funding for some of our city attractions. Some functional opportunities are our off-year city elections, equal rules for city officials as they apply to the employees also. And as chair, I've been chair of the Citizens Advisory Council since 2010, and we've always been entrusted to be accountable to our citizens and businesses to provide knowledgeable and creative suggestions and insights for challenges for our city.
Good evening. My name is Bridget Washington, and I am proud to introduce myself to you all tonight as the candidate for Post 3 Kennesaw City Council. I am originally from South Carolina, and I relocated to Kennesaw in 2000. I am the youngest of 9 children. Along with being the founder and CEO of the Cobb Alzheimer's Foundation, I am also affiliated with several civic organizations throughout the community. What inspired me to council is a vision, and not just a simple vision. I aspire to bring a vision of growth and opportunity for the community, but for also the future citizens of the community. You may ask, what do I represent? And I will respond by stating, I represent integrity, accountability, responsibility, and fairness. I represent the betterment of the community, and I seek to be the person you can always be comfortable coming to. Yes, Kennesaw is a good place to live, but I see Kennesaw being a great place to live. Tonight, I would like to thank the Homeowners Association, Legacy Park, and English Oak for hosting this event tonight. I would also like to thank Butler Ridge for hosting the desserts afterwards, and I look forward to seeing everyone on November the 5th for your support for me, Bridget Washington, as your new City Councilwoman for Post 3. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Deborah Williams. I want to start out thanking English Oaks as well as Legacy Park and Butler Ridge. I'm a wife, a mother, a Kennesaw small business owner, graduate of Auburn University with a bachelor's in communication and public relations. I've been a resident of Kennesaw for 12 years and now a candidate for the City Council Post 4. I've been vice chair of the Planning and Zoning Board for 2 years, and I've served on it for 4. We serve as an advisory board to the City Council. I'm also the chairman of the Frank Boone Dog Park Committee. I understand the importance of prioritizing and managing our funds to be more efficient and effective. I have to do that in my business. And it's imperative that we, as your elected representatives, be diligent stewards of our tax dollars, which include a stricter travel and expense policy for our council. No more individual definitions of what is fair and reasonable. Focusing a concerted effort and in funding our grossly underfunded pension program for our employees. And changing our policy on mandating our council members into a pension program where we pay nothing into it because it's paid for us and we're vested the very day we take office. That's not fair. I will not accept the pension program nor the health benefits our city mandates. I want to become a partner with our existing businesses to help them gain exposure, benefit from financial assistance in restoring and repairing the existing structures considered historical in nature. We're quick to court and help fund businesses to come into our city. But what are we doing for the ones who stayed loyal with us through the economic downturn? We owe them. We owe them. And what are we doing to keep them here? These are just a few of the items that I intend to make my priority if you support me for Council Post 4.
All right, now that you've all got over your jitters, we get to the hard questions. And we're going to start up there with Ms. Williams to make it equal. Here's the question you all get to answer. What are the 2 most important challenges you feel that are facing Kennesaw today?
I don't don't necessarily look at them as challenges as much as I look at them as opportunities. Again, these opportunities to reevaluate and look at our pension program for our employees to make sure that after they have provided their service to us, that we take care of them. The other is also looking into our travel and expense policy, making it stricter than what it is so that we can turn that money back into you, the taxpayer who has put that money forward. We need to be more accountable. Accountability is used very loosely these days, but we need a strict policy on our travel and expenses because we answer to you.
The two challenges that I would say that we face today is excessive spending with the council, with the elected officials. Council has a responsibility to the taxpayers to not take advantage or abuse the funding. The second is the pension plan. Elected officials receive the pension plan from day one of election. And with that, I do believe part-time pension for part-time employees. Our police officers, firemen, they deserve to have pensions first day on the job. They are the ones that protect and serve.
I'm kind of in alignment with these folks over here because finance is my background, and looking at the budgets and the numbers, the two pieces I would probably pick is one is a definitely review of the pensions and benefit programs that we have. Detroit's filed for bankruptcy this last summer, if you would remember, and a lot of the cities all across the nation are that way because of the financial loopholes that the government allows us to use, the city specifically to use in calculating the return on their money. If they could actually get the 7.5% that they're getting, I'd give them all my money to invest. The other option, or the other piece is we also spend an inordinate amount of money funding the museums and the gardens and other attractions that we have. They need a close review and probably a revamping with respect to how they're organized, managed, and funded.
I think one of the major things that we need to look at if we reach back and dust off some old plans is the retail in the downtown area. We've got some plans already out there that have been on the table, and I think if we revisit those, I believe we can get the retail that we need to support the other businesses that's in the area and move this, build the downtown up again. The other thing is to make sure we protect our existing treasures of the city. The museum is one of them. We need to protect that museum. We need to keep it vital, and we need to make sure that it's available to every person that comes around in this city, or in around the county, the state, and the nation. So those are the two areas that I think I'd like to make sure we keep focused on and move on from there.
It's hard to choose just two, but if I have to, I believe the biggest challenges and opportunities that we have here in Kennesaw are to continue the development of the downtown area. That's vital for any area. Woodstock's done a great job. Ackworth has done a phenomenal job. That is where we need to focus and continue to focus. Number two, our policies need to be reviewed. And that's all of the policies, but whether it's expense reports or anything that the travel times, that's something that needs to be looked at and studied and do the right thing.
The two greatest challenges I've seen that face us right now are retail development and our reducing the millage rate. First off, with our retail development, we are working on a program with the Kennesaw Development Authority to develop a program or a Watts Drive development. This has a 20,000 roughly square footprint. That's still too conservative for my estimates. I think we need to go less on the residential in that particular project and more on the commercial. We need to get a larger footprint of our commercial grade down front, and more of the retail developments. Incentive programs need to be worked for them. In addition, our millage rate is probably one of the highest in the county of the 6 cities. We need to look at that rate. Part of it is due, in fact, of the $1.5 million bond we have, but it is really something we need to address and work better programs for that. Thank you.
Yeah, I think the one main challenge we've had for years is economic development downtown. And we need to, as Deborah said earlier, we need to retain the businesses that we do have. We need to create something to make them know that they're wanted and they're needed. I think it really helps them if people just go in and say, hey, how are you doing? Glad you're here. How's your business doing? I think we need to improve a little bit more on that. Also, I think a challenge is working closer with our school board and getting our kids educated the way they need to be educated. That's our future, and we need to work hard with our kids.
All right, we'll go back to Mr. Duncan again. Property values continue to be lower in comparison to past years. How do you propose we account for any shortfalls that result in the decrease in property tax revenues for the city?
Yeah, we've had decreasing property values for several years, and when we get to our budget planning time, we have all the departments go through their budgets. They go over them and over them and over them, and they cut where they can cut. They bring it forth and say, here's what we have, and it either gets okayed or it gets sent back. We cut everything we can cut so that we can still provide the services that we provide and also keep the employees that we have and at their quality of life that they're at that moment. So it's a challenge, but we use what we can to cut to accommodate for it.
Two areas that I see that we could work on this. One is the public-private partnerships. These work very effectively. We found in the past that you have to be very transparent with these, but it's a very effective way to offset some of the downturn in the economy, some of the low receipts that we have in our revenue stream. But also looking back at our budget. I've asked for many years on this, and we could do this every other year if not effective for every year, but a zero-based balanced budget. That effectively goes back to zero and saying, look, everything that you got last year, you don't effectively get it this year. Just because you got it last year in your budget, we have to come by the idea that needs versus wants and get that straightforward from our taxpayers, saying that every time we have a somewhat of an increase with our revenue stream, bring it back to home and say, look, this is what we really need, this is not what we want.
I think it's very important, Bruce and Jim touched on this, going through the budget process, that we are critical and evaluate each budget every year down to the line item. And one thing that we are experiencing now, property values have bottomed out. They're on their way back up, so I believe that we're at a time where perhaps in the near future that we're able to lower property taxes, if that's something that we can get to. That would be my hope and desire. And again, that's always looking to save money at any time in any department. Thank you.
As dabbling in real estate, I understand the downturn in the property taxes. I see why. And I think it's going to behoove the city leaders to be a little bit better stewards. We have to in this downtime. It can be done. So until this is turned back around, which I see it inching up, I see some of the values going up as being in the market. So during this time, we just got to reevaluate, as was said, each department, and let them shave as much as they can, but I think we all be good stewards of your money and make sure it's spent wisely, not frivolously. I think we can survive this time.
I think the development and property values really follow what happens to the downtown area and the city as a whole as to what exactly is there to draw the people. I know we've mentioned about downtown development. I think that's critical. I think the plan, though, in order to do that would be to review the budget, eliminate the excesses that are spent there, and take the shore up the pieces that need to be, the budgets, the benefit, the packages, make sure everything is sound, and utilize that money in a better manner to enhance the city itself. That will take and automatically, over time, raise your property values and the value of the city as a whole.
Thank you. My desire would be to always go towards dropping property taxes, but until this economy is fully turned around, we just are at a standstill right now. But we do owe it to the community of Kennesaw to do whatever we can to save the city some money. So in doing that, and we must look at the budget and work with that and what we have in front of us for now.
Seems to all go back to the budget, doesn't it? The property depreciation didn't just happen to Kennesaw, it happened to everyone. And we need to look at what we're doing citywide. Some things that would offset that is looking at who we're bringing in business-wise into our city. When businesses start coming in and they start building, people start getting jobs opened up, they start moving into your community. That brings money in, that brings economic development in, and it's a perpetual once it starts. You start bringing businesses in, viable businesses that have jobs for our people, and you're going to see people wanting to come here, people wanting to move here, people wanting to build here. And when they do that, your property is going to go up.
All right, I'm gonna start with Mr. Church's time, we'll go down that way. We'll go back with Mr. Reedman and go that way. What are some of your ideas about how the city council members can exercise better fiscal responsibilities around the expenditure of city funds on items such as meals, lodging, travel expenses, conference fees?
Well, I tell you, it's just, each have got to be fiscal responsible for what they do. Excess spending on the city credit card is not a privilege just to go out and eat a meal or have an ice cream or something. You've got to be fiscal responsible for that, for your actions. We report to y'all, we work for y'all. Y'all put us in here, and we owe it to y'all to be responsible for how we spend your money.
I concur with Leonard, and I think there should be more controls with regards to the spending. I don't think the cards should just be there and what is considered reasonable, that's in the code and the law right now. Whatever they consider reasonable, that's what their spending amount is. It should be tied to just like any corporate business, you're tied to certain per diems per city, and any excess spending or stuff you need to do need to be approved. I think it also should probably be more public, all of the stuff in the budget. There's a lot of stuff, I mean, it's easy to say I have a balanced budget. Well, yeah, I mean, I can throw a bunch of negatives on one side of the equation and make it say it's balanced, but is it right? We just need a lot more controls and oversights with respect to budgets, and spending and everything else.
Where there is no accountability, there is no responsibility. Everything should be accounted for. Every dime spent should be accounted for, and a receipt should be required. Elected officials should respect the taxpayers' dollars. The taxpayers are not responsible for elected officials' habits. As stated before, accountability requires responsibility.
Definitely needs to be a per diem when you travel, but we also don't need to hand the credit card to every elected official once they step in the job. They should have to check that thing out so that you know who it's going with and where it's going to. Also having someone on staff that makes the hotel arrangements, makes the airfare, makes the car arrangements. All that should be on a staff member so that we don't allow the elected officials to arbitrarily make that decision for themselves. Also, there should be absolutely a receipt for everything you spend. No questions asked, down to the penny. Also, right now, to get that form, that whatever application, you have to file an open records request. I think it should be on the city website where you don't have to pay for it a second time.
I think the candidates here have brought up valid points. All of them, I think, are valid, and not to reiterate those, but I will. I think that we need to have controls in there. I know there are controls in there now, just in the brief time that I've been in, and what I've seen. Receipts are required to be turned in. I know that in the 3 months that I've been in, going through the budget, that we've had to we actually chose to pare back the budget on certain conferences and travel, and to be more direct and accountable, which I applaud each and every one. And I think any conference that you go to, you need to have, report back. What were you able to learn? How does that help the city? Thank you.
I echo the per diem idea. I think that's been long overdue. We need to have an adopted policy, exactly what is reported, and so there's not any extenuating circumstances where you're having to stay at some lavish hotel or something that's on taxpayers' dime. In addition to that, as I said earlier, the reporting back is good, but there's also, you need to share that information. When we attend conferences, when we attend lectures or meetings or network times, we need to be able to use this more effectively. Instead of all of us piling up and going to one event, it probably would be better if we all were divided and said, well, you go to this and I'll go to this, and report back and share that information. That's a better way to share the information, as well as getting the best bang for the buck when you're doing these type of events. Anyway, thank you.
I think it comes back to accountability and integrity. We've all got to display that in all our actions, whether it's spending or any other issue. We have looked at different ways of handling the cost when we do go out of town. We have looked at per diem. The way we do it now, we purchase our meals and they go on a receipt. We have to turn in the receipt, and it's either charged to our room or it's charged to our credit card. The per diem rates we looked at, depending on what part of town you go in or what state, they can be 3 to 4 times what you would normally spend. So we've got to look at something different there. And I'm in the belief that the conferences are needed. If you stop learning, you stop leading. And we need to get those classes in that can enhance our abilities to do our job.
All right, I'm going to start with Mr. Ruderman and go that way on this question, then Mr. Church and that way. The increased police presence on Giles, this is a two-part question. The increased police presence on Giles Road over the past few months has left many residents feeling like they are being targeted. Are you in favor of raising the speed limit along the stretch of road from Legacy Park to Cherokee Street from 35 to 45? And as a retired police sergeant, the police department could use some new cars. Would you support funding any money in the budget for new police cars?
Okay, first question. Giles Road, I'm probably as guilty as the next person at going over the speed limit right now. I don't have the answer to that. I think that I would love for it to go to the 45 miles an hour. Is that something that is smart for us? Because then we'll go to, will people then start driving at 55 and 60 miles an hour? I think that's a decision that we need to look at with the police department and to get some additional information. On the second question, absolutely, we need to continue with the police cars and having those top-notch vehicles. Thank you.
In regards to Giles Road, I live on Giles Road, so I know it's sort of like Talladega. It has a bad stretch right now where whereas it goes to 35, and it really could look like it could go to 45. Unfortunately, right now we haven't gotten the okay or punch out for that section of road, which is phase 2, and that particular section is going to need a traffic study, which will allow us then to do probably about 3 to 4 weeks. Will allow us to have an understanding: is 45 really necessary on that road? In regards to the traffic, as far as getting to the patrol cars, that's something we need to look at very closely in a budget, because I'm not sure just buying them is the best way or best use of the funds. Sometimes we can use what they call seizure funds and augment our budget by using those outside funding sources.
Giles Road, I don't really have an opinion whether it should be raised or stay, but Giles Road is approximately 3 miles long. If you go from one end to the other with no red lights at 60 miles an hour, it'll take you 3 minutes. If you go 30 miles an hour, it's half that. So, it doesn't really make that much difference. Plus, the police are not giving you a ticket for going 36 miles an hour. So, you've got some leeway there. So if we raise it to 45, then you've got leeway again. So you're probably going up in excess of 50 before you get a ticket. So I don't know if that's, like Bruce said, I think we need to do a study on that and see if that's even feasible to have cars going that fast. You got people running up and down the sidewalks, people walking, people with baby carriages, and I don't know that that would be good. The police cars, I think we'd have to look into that a little more.
Okay, the Giles Road, we got a lot of subdivisions on Giles Road, and I agree, raising it to 45, that absolutely will boost it even higher than that. I've always supported the police department in whatever they needed, and there's always a way to find if we need new cars, and the seizure funds was one of the ways mentioned. That is an absolute, but I've always supported the police department, whatever. I think our police department is the best around, and I think they deserve the best equipment.
With regards to Giles Road, I concur with some of the panel up here. It does need to be studied a little bit. There are both speed issues and safety issues involved. I think by the time the study gets done, you may find it to be a happy medium that they will take and maybe raise it to 40, cut it in between, keep it safe. I know you have some dangerous spots in between there, but they definitely do need to be studied. With regards to police cars and other equipment, I believe they purchased 3 new ones, or at least 3 new ones for this year, either as part of the budget and or part of these seized funds. We should always be looking to provide them whatever they need. And again, we need to look at the budgets a little closer, and I think we'll find probably adequate money to service the police and other departments as they need.
Our police officers are here to protect and serve. By raising the speed limit in Kennesaw on Giles Road would not be, in my opinion, very beneficial, because most of Giles Road is in a residential community. And by our police officers being visible on Giles Road as often as they are just assuring that the residents of Kennesaw themselves remaining law-abiding citizens of the community. As for supporting police cars, we have an excellent police department. and I believe we should give them everything that they need to continue to serve our community.
By the time it gets to me, I feel like I can just say ditto. But do we increase the speed limit? Well, we all know if you increase it 5, then it gives them 5 more to go. So when do you stop? We have to look at the number of subdivisions, the number of entrances specifically onto Giles Road, where it pairs down and where it comes back into a 4-lane. Right now, I don't think we have enough information to be able to give a true answer to that. The max, I believe, based on the roads that I travel, 40 is the max that road should ever go up to. And that's for the safety of the people who live on that road, the people who run those sidewalks. As far as the police cars, we have seizure money. I don't think they should hesitate to use that seizure money in order to get the police department the cars that they are needing to do their job, which is to protect us.
Okay, who wants to go first? All right, Jeff. What are your plans to have more cultural events in Kennesaw?
Cultural events in Kennesaw, I would love to have more cultural events in Kennesaw. We are in the process of getting a committee together to study that. We're trying to get people from the community that have different backgrounds and different education to help us with those. And I would love to see it, and hopefully we can get that going in the next year here.
We recently started the Culture Commission, which is a spinoff of the Rec Culture Commission. It is hopefully our mission to see it grow. We are actually entertaining a group that is looking at the community house to add a local artists gallery, as well as a venue for them to be able to sell their work. This is something that's hopefully in the matrix to see come to fruition. Our sister city, Ackworth, has helped us many times in sharing that type of vision as well. So I see this as a growing product with KSU and the Arts Commission there as well. So I see a lot of different commissions and different opportunities for us to use the arts in our events as well. Thank you.
I would absolutely love to see more cultural events here in Kennesaw. I think we actually do a very good job right now in what we do, but I believe that with the development that's going to happen downtown, I know it's hard to believe because it hasn't happened yet, but that's going to happen downtown. That's a great opportunity for us to have retail space that would provide these activities, along with the great partnerships that we do have with KSU and other routes. Thank you.
To piggyback on Matt's comments, we do need the retail downtown, so when an event is concluded, they have somewhere to go without leaving and going somewhere else to either eat or shop or whatever. So I think it's vital that we get the retail, and I know we've got a project coming on board, so when we get that, I think that will increase our chances to get more cultural activities in, and I believe this is what it's going to take to make that happen.
I concur with the rest of the panel thus far, and the only other suggestion I might have would be more of a collaborative effort with regards to the businesses in the city and the county to maybe collectively start throwing on more events versus having just one major sponsor or something from the outside coming in sponsoring it for us.
Can you please repeat the question?
What are your plans to have more cultural events in Kennesaw?
With my plans with cultural events in Kennesaw, and I see really everybody's eyes are focused on me, Kennesaw is now a multicultural community. Look at the council. Even last night, the youth council. No representation from any other nationality. When the event takes place in Kennesaw, there are no other nationalities that are included. So what I would like to see in Kennesaw is I would like to see more diversity. I would like to see this community transform into a multicultural community. Kennesaw is no longer the old Kennesaw, it is now the new Kennesaw. And with the new Kennesaw, Kennesaw is multicultural. Thank you.
Previously, as the PR director for the Alabama State Council on the Arts, I dealt with events like this where there was various venues, various groups of people who would come into our downtown. They would bring their food, they would bring their music, they would bring their artistry into this. It's not hard to make happen. We worked with the Alabama State Council on the Arts in the cities. We here in Georgia, we have a Georgia State Department of the Arts. They help us find those people who are the artists, both locally and from Georgia, to come in and to perform. While I've been campaigning, I actually ran up on a guy who's not only an artist but a filmmaker right here in our town that does tremendous amount of work in downtown Atlanta. Those are the people that we need to get to be on this committee to start planning this. We don't have to wait until the new people get in. We can start that now.
All right, hang on to that microphone. Since we're talking about that, a question came in. It says the city council in meetings with citizens has talked about being progressive. The city population is diverse and will continue to grow over the next 5 to 10 years. Can you state 2 ideas that you would champion to meet the diverse and growing needs of all citizens?
Yeah. I can say this, a very good friend of mine, and many of you know him, R.J. Patel, he and I have talked about bringing his culture and showing his culture. Their dances, their costumes, their food, their way of life. We have to learn who we are now as Kennesaw, the diversity and the multicultural environment that we're in. I would work with those groups. It's not that difficult. I don't remember the second part of that answer. But as serving on the planning and zoning now, which will be working with arts and cultural development, I look forward to working with that group of people and to show them where they can go to find these groups, to bring them in, and how all of that is planned out. Kennesaw is ready for this, and I think all of you, as well as I, am ready for this.
Mine too would be bringing more events that gears toward all cultures that currently resides here in Kennesaw, and to bring in more minority-owned businesses here in Kennesaw.
I haven't given this particular subject much thought, but when I was born and raised in Detroit, every weekend, all summer long, along the riverfront, they have what they call the ethnic festivals. Every weekend, a different nationality would take and sponsor the weekend, and they had all the traditional food, the dances, the decor, everything else. And just a quick suggestion off the top of my head would be to take our summer times, and we have our Mondays at the depot for the meals. Let that be sponsored by a different ethnic group each time. And we could maybe have, the food may not necessarily all be like that, but just a quick thought.
I think we ought to capitalize on a great resource that's here in Kennesaw, and that's KSU. Where else do you think you could go and just get some input and to bring some cultural events into Kennesaw? KSU is a multifaceted cultural institution, and I think we need to capitalize on that, get them involved in this, and I think we can make some great strides and get some great activities down here.
I think everyone, Leonard and Jim and Deborah and Bridget have all had great ideas here. like Jim grew up in Detroit or outside of Detroit. I grew up right outside of Chicago, and during the summertime, you know, the Greek festival and every type of nationality represented throughout the summer. I just love going down there and experiencing that. I think tying that together with the new culture committee that we have that we're bringing together, along with our partnerships, like Leonard mentioned with KSU, I think that's a great idea. Bring our youth in. The youth will bring us great things. Thank you.
KSU is operating right now with a multicultural events program, and like Leonard mentioned, they are very interested, and I've spoken to them several times about putting together a particular festival here as well, looking at somewhere in the calendar of next year. We had also planned something in this fall, working with the arts program and piggybacking on that with the multicultural art programs, because each program, each culture has their own version of art and how it speaks without words. So it's one really effective way of crossing those bridges. Different ethnicities come out in that wonderful art program. So it's really neat if we can get that on board, and that's what I look forward to with this Cultural Commission. Thank you.
Yeah, I think with this commission coming up, I think we are going to be a fast pace at bringing this type of events to Kennesaw, and I look forward to that. I also agree that we need to work more with Kennesaw State, and I believe they would be a great partner in helping us with this. There's also another culture, one that I'm gradually getting into now, that's 55 and over. I think we need to have events for those as well. So I will be working towards that in the coming months as well.
I think I fit into that 55 and older for about 9 years. This is a two-part question. I'll start with Mr. Church first. Do you feel that continuing to spend city dollars on ongoing maintenance and operation of the Southern Museum and Smith Gilbert Gardens is justifiable? And if you do you have a plan to help make both operations profitable?
All right, the museum is what Kennesaw is. You cannot take away from the museum without taking away Kennesaw. I think the funding that we put into it is justified to bring it, for the surrounding businesses that are here and for the surrounding businesses that are coming with the new project. So I think that whatever we need to do, we need to keep it in-house and do whatever it takes to make sure that museum is very viable to everyone in this city. It's a way of life. It is our life. And I would support that museum all the way.
I think the museum is a good draw. However, the museum revenue is just a little over $300,000 a year. They have a foundation that raises money, but that money goes towards additions and other pieces. I think the next thing they're having is a research center. But we as the city also fund a bond that we floated out for $5 million, of which we still owe 3-point-some million. In addition to that, we spend about an average of $625,000 a year to support the museum, in addition to what funds that the foundation may take and put in. Again, I think it's a great attraction, but is the money that's spent worth it? I think we need to reevaluate that and possibly figure out a better way to do that. Smith Gilbert Gardens, same scenario, but on a lesser degree.
The museum is one of Kennesaw's most notable attributes. The museum represents Kennesaw history. It houses a valuable piece of American history, and I feel that the museum is very beneficial to the community. As for the Smith Gilbert Garden, I have no comment on that right now.
I don't think anyone of us would question the viability of the museum. However, I do not believe we need to continue funding that much of the museum. What we have to do is we have to look at what our affiliation with the Smithsonian agreement has in it. What is it offering? What is the benefit? How can we better use that benefit for the museum to make it more attractive? As well as we need to look at their business plan. You've always heard, keep doing the same thing, the same way, you get the same results. It's time for us to step back and look. There's nothing wrong with reevaluating. Reevaluating is where you find where you can do things better. You get rid of those things that are not working, you increase those things that are working, and you bring in the things that make it work even better. And we've got to sit down around the table with some honest conversation to get those results.
Yes, I do support the museum and the gardens fully. I think that they are extremely valuable to the city. And as I've said before, they're a quality of life issue. I don't believe they will ever make a profit. And museums they never make a profit. The Smithsonian's in Washington, D.C. are totally funded by the taxpayers. The travel and tourism business, which both of them fall into, contributes over $650 billion annually to our economy. And that is part of Kennesaw. It is an economic drive. And we have a director now that is doing things to make it better. And we are lowering every year the amount that gets transferred in from the general fund. We are working towards making it better.
Both of these entities are very unique to Kennesaw, so outsourcing them is probably not a viable option unless you look at inside certain pieces like the marketing facility part of it, or perhaps even some of the staff in specialized areas. But the thing we have to remember is that in the museum's case, you, the taxpayer, didn't get to choose, that you are now in debt and you are now subsidizing this product. This was decided by previous council administration, and now it is set up so that basically about $1.2 million each year is transferred from the general fund to cover not only the bond payment, but also day-to-day operations. The facility on the garden, you did decide. That was part of the bond referendum for Smith Gilbert and Swift Cantrell. We need to work at these two options, these two facilities, and find ways to cut costs and make them more effective so that they can continue and don't tax the taxpayers.
The museum is very important to us, without a doubt. Several things here. We can look at refinancing the bonds. Is that something that is viable? Will that save us money? Similar to, although different, refinancing your house. Is that something that's viable? We need to look at that further. It's typical of great cities to contribute monies from their general fund to museums. That's part of life. It's part of the economic impact, part of the quality of life. Always we need to evaluate the partnerships that we have, whether it be with the Smithsonian or with marketing companies. That needs to be done on an ongoing basis without question. And I believe the foundation is continuing to raise more money, and less debt each year is coming out of the general fund. Thank you.
All right, I'll start with Mr. Duck on this one. What would your priority over the next 2 years with regards to the continued development of Swift Cantrell Park?
Well, we started I guess it was about a year ago or so. We took we have a master plan for the park that was developed many years ago. There have been different opinions of what needs to go in the park and what is on the plan. So we took the plan, the city manager and the staff have taken the plan, and they've gotten a company to go through that plan to determine what is actually needed and wanted at the park. And they're working on that now. But the staff has been trying to work towards developing that plan, and they've been working in the direction of the plan. So that's why we have taken the plan to revise it, because they've been working towards a plan that maybe some of the council or the citizens weren't agreeing with now, as opposed to back in the past. So we are working on that now to upgrade the park plan.
Just to piggyback on that, a company by the name of Green Rock has been selected by the council to readdress the master plan. There were certain characteristics when you look at a plat or you look at a development, and the buildings all look like we've got plenty of green space, but we start putting concrete down, we start putting asphalt down. All of a sudden, this wonderful green area that we all enjoy in the large tract that's to the right when you enter Swift Cantrell goes away, and it becomes under asphalt, under concrete, and not so much of a park anymore, but pretty much like Adams, with more of your sports complex. So we need to really address the next steps and next projects we look at. Right now, we're currently finishing up the skate park. As I understand, scheduled to open up sometime mid-November. But after that, I think we're going to take a real slow step and see what the public wants done with that park.
I think that Jeff and Bruce touched on a couple things here that are very important. We need to look at the master plan. We need to finish the skate park, open it up, make it an awesome, incredible asset that it will be. I know that everybody doesn't agree with that part of the park. I think it will be an incredible economic asset for the city and for the kids and the adults who skate. I believe also that the green space that is there now should remain green space. I feel strongly about that. Thank you.
I remember what the plans were many years ago, and I know everything gets tweaked and everything changes. I support the park in its entirety. The citizens, you voted on the money to fund the expansion of it right now at the skate park. So I'm going to support that, and I think, and I agree with Matt on that the green space that's left, I'm hoping we'll be able to keep it that way, at least for some time, so we can have, you know, some go out and if you want to fly a kite or something, you have somewhere to stand without getting run over.
I'll have to double support Leonard because I like that green space to fly my kites. I think one thing that's probably missing both on the Swift Cantrell revisit downtown master plan, the hopefully to come someday soon, the Cherokee master plan, is we need a lot more citizen input. I know we can put stuff up on the city websites, we can talk and have town hall meetings and that, but again, it's your park, it's your city, and we can only make the decisions by what we hear and the feedback we get. So I'm thinking as we review these things, we definitely need your input, your neighbors' input, and anybody else's input we possibly can, so we can have this thing develop to the liking of the majority.
I support the Swift and Trail Park entirely, and I see Swift and Trail as continuous growth. But I must agree with Bruce and Jim that it's a community